Dear Diary, today was quite rough and tough. The dunes here are massive. The sea's not too bad, although the wind's blowing the wrong direction. I've got a broken toe, chafe to the left arm and right nipple. And these shorts are starting to stink. And I've run out of toothpaste. What a travesty that is. The man will be going wild before he knows it. Suppose he's in Africa. See, I should be acting. Not this bloody peddling business, it's just all hard work.
I'll now read the traditional opening message by Society member Henry David Thoreau. I went to the woods because I wanted to live deliberately. I wanted to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life.
I'll second that.
To put to rout all that was not life, and not when I had come to die, discover that I had not lived.
This is Beau Miles. Here he is running a marathon a mile at a time over a full 24 hours. Here he is running nearly 700 k's across the Australian Alps. Here he is kayaking around the Horn of Africa. And here he is eating nothing but tinned beans for 40 straight days. This man, clearly, is an adventure aficionado. He's a uni-lecturing, globe-trotting, ultra-marathon running, open-sea kayaking, bad-ass motherfucker. Someone dedicated to pushing the limits of his own body and achieving great things, despite the unfortunate handicap of being an Australian. So, why am I making a video about him? Well, to be honest, it's not really because of any of this. There are heaps of globe-trotting ultra-athletes out there, and I could talk about them for hours. Hell, there's a guy who vlogged an entire circumnavigation of the globe via unicycle. I'm not making this video because of the things that Beau Miles does. I'm making it because of the reasons he does them.
You know, this is the first time this has been run since 1958. It's a bit of fun.
Otherwise, who gives a toss? You know, what am I out here doing? I'm just running around, you know?
There's kind of no point, but there's lots of point to it as well.
He's decided to study the effects of a diet of beans by eating absolutely nothing else until he's consumed his own body weight. What made you want to do this, Beau? What a strange thing to do.
Well, I've got a few props with me, and the first one is John Steinbeck's Tortilla Flat. And so there's about 10 lines in this where a school teacher finds out that her school kids only eat beans. And so she sends around the doctor to the house, and lo and behold, the doctor finds these super healthy kids, and all they eat is beans. In fact, the grandmother just ladles them straight out of the pot onto the floorboards, and the kids have got to eat them off the floor. And I'm going through a Steinbeck phase, as I suppose hipsters do in their 30s, you know. And so I thought, how do I recreate that as an adult? And can I be this healthy nut brown kid in an adult form? So that's what started it off, and then there's all sorts of other layers I've added to it.
That is the best reason for doing anything I have ever heard.
Beau is an outlier and worth making a video about because he's a practical intellectual. Beau is interested not just in deconstructing the oddities of existence, but in doing so through the tactile wisdom of lived experience. Like a scientist mixing random chemicals to try and make something interesting happen, Beau throws himself into situations yet unexplored to see what kind of truths might lie on the other side. Beau's seemingly insatiable curiosity and the way he goes about satisfying it totally fascinates me, and in this video I'm going to look at 3 aspects of Beau's approach to life that I think we would all do well to emulate. Sometimes, when we think about leaving our comfort zone or discovering some sort of existential truth, we think about doing the big stuff. Moving to another country, climbing Mount Everest, selling all of our belongings and taking a vow of silence. I think that when we do this, we miss a lot of the insight that can be gained by looking closer to home. Don't get me wrong, Beau's a person who's definitely done some big stuff. He kayaked around the Horn of Africa in one of these when the Dutch East India Company regularly, and I mean regularly, wrecked ships like this in the area. In recent years though, Beau sought wisdom not by stepping back and looking at the big picture, but by zooming in and more closely examining the small, underappreciated parts of our everyday lives. Instead of backpacking around Asia, he walks his daily commute over 50 hours. Instead of climbing Kilimanjaro, he runs an abandoned train line he's lived on top of since he was a kid. Beau proves that even when life's big adventures are unavailable to us for reasons of time or cost or disability, that we shouldn't despair, because all the adventure we'll ever need can be found by taking a closer look at the things we brush over every single day. One of the most interesting things about Beau's experiments is that he seems to go into them with the intention of finding some sort of insight, but with no idea what kind of insight that might be. Lots of people travel the world because they want to gain perspective or an appreciation for the human race, but Beau will throw himself into a 40-day bean-only diet based on half a page of a Steinbeck novel, without the slightest idea if there's anything to be learned.
I'm making a film about this for my YouTube channel, and I'm trying to bring out a narrative, and I'm not sure what it is other than just eating a lot of beans. And I've got to bring some... Oh, no, that sounds ridiculous. And so that's what I'm saying to myself. What's the story, man? You know, so I've got to really dig deeper, and I'll be doing that in the next few weeks. Yeah.
In everything he does, Beau trusts that there's always a narrative. If you look close enough and think hard enough, there'll always be some understanding to be gained, no matter what you've chosen to do.
What do you think, Magpie? What's the point of all this? I'm out here for closure. You got any insights? Actually, you're good, because I can have the conversation with you rather than these static cameras. I'm starting to trust myself more and more, Magpie, with following curious tendencies. It's good. I used to go to the ends of the earth to try and find adventure. It's under my nose here, on all these sort of multi-layered things that happen in my own backyard.
Before we try something new, or embark on a new adventure, big or small, we often look to others who've undertaken the same adventure to try and get a feel for what we should be taking from the experience and trying to figure out whether our insights will be worth it. Instead of worrying about whether our revelations will be worth the trouble, Beau chooses to embrace unexplored ground, trusting that no matter the triviality of the task, that there's something in it to be learned, some narrative to be found. Okay, so there was this pretentious French philosopher dude in the middle of last century, I think his name was like Albert Camus or something like that. Well, he talked a lot about this weird part of the human condition he called the absurd. Basically, he was worried about how humans could reconcile their innate desire to find a meaning to life with the fact that, like, there isn't one. So, Camus thought that there was really only one question you had to answer in life, whether to embrace the absurd, accept the meaningless of life and live accordingly, or whether to, well, not do that. Beau Miles is a perfect example of a person who acknowledges the pointlessness of life and the ultimate inconsequence of the things we do every day, and embraces it. Why eat beans for a month, Beau? Dunno, because I feel like it. Why run a marathon over 24 hours, Beau? Dunno, because I feel like it.
Well, unless you're hunting for food or making a baby, there's no real point to anything.
Like Sisyphus, we're condemned to an existence completing ultimately pointless tasks as the forces of the world conspire to make us fail. But as our French frère said, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. So, I know this has been weirdly sycophantic, but I really do love Beau's films. His clearly evident passion for life, plus his unique outlook on getting out of his comfort zone, come together with some excellent run-and-gun storytelling chops to produce super compelling, inspiring, and introspective videos that I think are criminally underrated.